Today we have Bill Sodeman on with us. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Gabriel?
Good. So good to have you here. I kind of wanted to start at the very beginning with a question I ask everyone, and it's what were you doing before deciding to come become a coach?
I previously was a nonprofit executive, and my title was Chief Learning Officer, so I was in charge of employee training and compliance for a 4,000 headcount nonprofit organization in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And before that, I'd been a business professor for 25 years. So it's been an interesting journey this year. I started with Focal Point about 11 months ago.
hmm Okay. That's awesome. I had no idea what you had done before. So that's really interesting to hear that and to hear the kind of career that you have built beforehand. So what was it that made you decide to join Focal Point then? What kind of pointed you here?
Well, I'd always wanted to have my own business. And I was at the stage in my career where I could make that happen. I quickly gravitated towards coaching and advisory services, partly because I had been working with adult professionals as a professor for so long. Students and peers seemed to come to me often for advice or as a sounding board. And the more I learned about Focal Point, the more I realized that I had been coaching for a long time. I just didn't know it.
I think exactly with what you had just said there, you know, learning and teaching and being in that specific environment too. It really is a form of coaching. And, especially if you were hands-on with the way that you kind of just explained it there, it really is like a different way of coaching. So, kind of going into your time here so far, I was curious, what were some focal point tools and resources that you found yourself going towards more often and utilizing to help you with your practice?
The Focal Point library is very helpful. It's packed with resources, not only the content, but some of the ancillary systems that Focal Point provides, like FP Connect,
hmm
um, the our website presence. There's all sorts of items in the library that I consult every day to do a better job for my clients. I like to customize the engagements as much as I can, and with Focal Point, I can do that.
That's awesome. And so do you use things like that every day in your practice, all the tools, the FP library, the your website, things like that? How often do you incorporate them?
It would be hard for me to count how many times a day I'm scurrying around in the library or working through some piece of Focal Point from the knowledge base. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so glad that I joined Focal Point as a franchisee, is that I knew late last year when I was considering going into coaching and advisory services, if I tried to build this up by my bootstraps from scratch, it would be a long road. Focal Point has quickly gotten me pointed in a positive direction with my practice, and I feel more confident about what I do. It's also helpful to have the network of Focal Point coaches and the incredible staff and teammates in headquarters to help guide my journey, because whatever question I've got, there's usually an answer, and it doesn't take very long to find it.
That's very sweet too to hear that. I mean, being as somebody that's in a home office, we always try to do our best, but it's always so nice to hear the impact that we make on the coaches as well. With these resources and with the community and network, do you find that that was one of the main reasons or main things that kind of helped you feel settled as you became a coach? Were those resources and everything something that really made you feel comfortable with your practice?
Yes, and it really started from the first day of training. as I came on board as a new franchisee and working through my coaching certification. Everybody in my cohort was very supportive. We all worked together well. And again, if I tried to do this by myself, it would have boggled my mind. The power of the team cannot be underestimated. And I feel like I joined a really great team.
That's so wonderful. I one of my questions I kind of wanted to ask was, did you have any conversations with anyone else in your cohort or any other coaches before joining that kind of eased some of those maybe fears that you had about becoming a coach, or anything that felt just really impactful and that you still kind of think about?
Yeah, before I joined Focal Point, I had the opportunity to speak with several Focal Point coaches, and they were always very straightforward with their answers to my questions. And they had plenty of questions for me too that helped crystallize in my mind what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually confirmed what I had been seeing as I did my due diligence on Focal Point. The more I uncovered, the more comfortable I was with making my decision. As I joined the cohort, there's a dozen or so of us who are all pretty much in the same boat. We speak of it as, being fed from the fire hose. There's so much knowledge coming at us. And it was probably the most intense 2 months of my life outside of graduate school,
Okay.
but it was worth it. And, I was doing this at a profound time in my life with a lot of changes going on. And it really helped that the cohort and the Focal Point team who were leading us through the initial training were so supportive.
Wow. Yeah. It's really wonderful to hear, and thank you for sharing that and sharing your experience. I wanted to circle back just a little bit and kind of pull in both of the questions, or some of the questions I've asked. And one thing I was curious about was, if all these tools and everything that, yeah, because I know how nerve-wracking it can be to look at it. I mean, I know what everything is, and I still don't even know what to look for sometimes. And that, taking that aspect and then taking this personal aspect, how do you kind of mesh them together? How do you build your brand with some of the tools that already exist and use them to propel you forward?
I've been a big believer ever since I was in grad school in continuous improvement. And that lines up very nicely with Focal Point's philosophy of not only how to work with our clients and advise them on how to reach the next steps in their careers, propel their organizations forward. It's actually made me not only a better coach, but a better person.
Oh,
There were so many things in the training and everything that followed up, because the training is ongoing. And that's really one of the big wins I've had throughout the year, is realizing that this is a community that's devoted to continuous improvement. It's a community that does what it says it's going to do,
wow.
and will go, beyond the extra mile to help everybody out.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer those questions. I have one that I kind of want to leave us off with here, and it's a question I've asked a few people now that I just find it very fascinating to hear, and hear a little bit more of that backstory that all of you have, and those little moments that, I never get to hear, and I know a lot of people don't get to hear. Has there been a moment with you being at Focal Point that just really sticks out to you? Maybe it's a client success story, something that keeps you going every day, something that, comes into your mind. It could be a conversation with a coach, it could be that client success story. or just something even small, like a conversation that you've had with someone at home office. Is there anything that really sticks out to you like that?
Well, one thing I always go back to is conference back in April. Of course, it was my first conference, and I was used to industry and academic conferences that always have, very specific agendas. There's some networking going on, but, you're lucky if you get to connect with people in a real sense. And Focal Point Conference was a revelatory experience for me because I had so many powerful and excellent conversations, not only with coaches, but with people who I'd interacted with online. And, in some cases, there were hugs, there were handshakes, there was recognitions like, oh, it's you, you're a real person. And of course, everybody at Focal Point's a real genuine person, but it was just great to connect with everybody. And, in Hawaii, where I lived for a number of years, we have a saying called talk story, where you just sit down and tell your story with people. There's a lot of open-ended questions. And I quickly felt at home at conference because there was a lot of talk story going on. It was really fun.
Wow. I like that talk story. I might use that. That's I've never heard that before. And so where does that come from? I'm curious. Like you said when you were in Hawaii?
Yeah, I was a professor in Hawaii for 12 years in Honolulu, and I quickly realized that in Hawaiian culture, there is a lot of emphasis on open-ended questions, on active listening, and honest communication that, I don't think people realize just how different Hawaiian culture is from, mainland culture in that regard. You have time to slow down and really understand people at a deep and genuine level.
Hmm.
And, that was one of the best takeaways I had from conference is that was happening, in almost every conversation. It wasn't just, shaking hands and say, hi, George, how are you? It was people taking time to actually get to know me, and I would get to know them as well. And I've forged a lot of relationships from conference that, have carried through to this day.
Wow. Yeah, that's I think really fascinating, being able to see this one thing that you've experienced and known for years and you notice it in the culture here. I have never found words to put to what that is, but that talk story is my favorite point of Focal Point, and it's my favorite point, a part of talking to everybody and conference and this and that. So, and I've never found a way to describe that. So I really like that.
Oh, good. I'm glad you found that.
I really appreciate you letting me steal a few more minutes of your time with that too. So thank you. And thank you so much for sharing that. That was such a wonderful thing to hear. And I really appreciated how you answered that question. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I just wanted to thank you again for joining us today. It's been so lovely having you on.